Only in America.
Only in America.
Only in America.
Only in America.
Only America.
Only in America.
This week, immigrant business owners and workers have been essential to the response and recovery to COVID-19. So, how are they faring as the nation recovers?
Whereas our location was geared towards lunch, all of a sudden our dinners were exploding. And so it's been incredible to see the local community rally around. Kind of, they knew our heartbeat and they knew what we were about as a restaurant. They rallied around us and they would tell others, hey, if you're going to eat anywhere, eat at Sushioki. Make sure you support them, double the tips. I mean, our tips tripled. It was incredible to see people being so generous and compassionate and loving to us, just the fact because we stayed open.
From the National Immigration Forum, I'm Ali Nirani, and this is Only in America. As vaccinations increase and Americans start to reunite with family and friends, there's hope for an economic boost. But will that boost extend to immigrant communities? Prior to the pandemic, unemployment was at a historic low. But then, as stores shuttered and industries struggled, real GDP growth fell during the second quarter of 2020 by nearly 32%. Numbers that we just have not seen since the Great Depression. Driving through neighborhoods across the country, you just see the effects. Shuttered storefronts, quiet business districts, not to mention the stories of families who have scraped by day after day over the last year. The fact is, millions of immigrant workers were among those who most acutely felt the stress of the pandemic and its economic fallout.
People are more resourceful, they're hungrier, we're in survival mode, and we've actually been innovative to get through the pandemic, and but we were the most affected because we were on the front lines. Only less than 14% of Latinos could work from home or be on a Zoom call like most people are these days. The other 80-something% had to be out there on construction sites or at restaurants or in kitchens or providing healthcare. And so we're not afraid of what we see the future coming. Now, I think we're wide open, eyes wide open, knowing that we need to seek help. We need to help each other. And this is our economy now. And this pandemic has really opened up the floodgates, in my opinion, for people to realize that this is our economy. And the only way we're going to survive is by being resourceful and asking for help.
That was Ramiro Cavazos, CEO of the U.S. Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. As he points out, the pandemic highlighted not only the vital role immigrants play as doctors and nurses on the front lines, but also as agricultural workers, delivery drivers, and store clerks. Issaka Kouraogo worked all through the pandemic as a team leader at Whole Foods. He was among the millions of essential workers that took a daily risk to keep food on our tables.
We keep open because we were like essential service. So we were, on the floor because I work in the produce department. I was most of the time on the floor. We get sometimes a little scared about the customer because some people are sick. They can just wear a mask and come, to shop and they don't know they're sick. You can be contaminated. So that means it happened to us. We get this kind of little fear, but it was okay because we just always wear our mask, clean our hand.
That anxiety was felt even more acutely in the small businesses owned by immigrants and families of immigrants, a group that makes up about 20% of small business owners in the U.S. Lawrence Yu is the owner of Sushioki, a sushi burrito restaurant in Durham, North Carolina. His family immigrated to the U.S. from Korea.
It's been crazy, actually. We were very fearful. Knowing what COVID has done to the hospitality businesses, we were in a very scary place. Specifically, when RTP, our main crowd, our main customer base was the Research Triangle Park, which is where all the major tech companies were located. And for their lunch break was our location. That was our bread and butter. Well, they all closed. So every one of those offices, every one of those headquarters all closed down. And so we were so scared. We just didn't know what we were going to do. Initially, it was just slow. And so we thought we were going to close for a while, but we didn't want to close because we didn't want to stop paying our people. So we didn't know what was going to happen with regards to, at the time, before all the stimulus stuff came out. And so we decided to just stay open as long as we could. Well, it was incredible that people just were so happy that we were trying to stay open. And we were trying to serve curbside and contactless. And we were all wearing masks and gloves and spraying everything. We closed our indoor. That all of a sudden our takeout business exploded. And it just kept on exploding. Whereas our location was geared towards lunch, all of a sudden our dinners were exploding. And so it's been incredible to see the local community rally around. They knew our heartbeat and they knew what we were about as a restaurant. They rallied around us and they would tell others, hey, if you're going to eat anywhere, eat at Sushiyoki. Make sure you support them. Double the tips. I mean, our tips tripled. It was incredible to see people being so generous and compassionate and loving to us, just the fact because we stayed open. So it was incredible to see. And then during that process, as COVID went on, we've never closed and we were able to stay open. And we've seen our business actually, it went down obviously for a little while, but then we've seen it come back. And we're back and probably better than ever.
Like Lawrence, Ramiro says he has been surprised by some of the outcomes of the pandemic.
We're all very interconnected. And I've seen tremendous acts of kindness during this pandemic, as you've seen, and people that are listening to us, that we never thought would occur, where we literally, consumers are saving businesses by patronizing them to ensure that they don't go away, forgiving leases for a tenant. And so it has really shown the best side of humanity, in my opinion, not just the challenges with humanity, which we also have experienced over the last year with the murder of George Floyd and the concerns about racism in this country, which are valid, and then the weakness in the economy. So I'm optimistic, Ali, in that I feel that our businesses have become more resourceful. They become more adept at asking for help. Many of our Latino-owned businesses were not exposed or connected to banks. Only half of our small business owners had a banker relationship. They might have a checking account, but they didn't have a banker when they were applying for the Paycheck Protection Program. That's all changed.
It's been an interesting, as I talked to my staff, it's been an interesting year for them. It's been so interesting to navigate the emotional, spiritual toll COVID has had on people, and trying to figure out the best way to be community and loving and supportive in the whole myriad of kind of psychological and emotional issues that have happened.
In spite of the critical role immigrant-owned businesses, much less the immigrant workforce itself, played in the response and recovery to COVID-19, the community is too often left out of the government relief programs. In fact, last year's CARES Act excluded undocumented immigrants from relief. And until Senators Rubio and Tillis fought to make sure U.S. citizens married to foreign nationals received relief, even families where a spouse was not a citizen were excluded, all of which has placed enormous pressure on the community. As a result, Ramiro from the U.S. Hispanic Chamber of Commerce says, for many small businesses, they've looked at new ways to get help.
The traditional model of going to a big bank, a branch, to apply for a loan, that is not going to be the majority mainstream of accessing capital for our members. In fact, many of our members are using, people who they already do business with and know them better than even some of their family members, their credit history, and their payment background. And so what I see changing is there'll be more, people seeking dollars where there's equity involved, not just debt. Latinos, we hate debt, and Latinas. Most of us are owners, have a higher home ownership rate in many communities because we were raised to be thrifty and frugal. We didn't have credit cards, handed down to us by our parents. But we need to be innovative with financial tools, but at the same time, not use them as a crutch. And so for me, the way I see us moving forward is to make sure that the U.S. government also sees Latino and Latino-owned businesses as money managers for Treasury and Commerce and SBA, that there's equity involved. And what I have seen during this pandemic, and we have seen, Ali, is more crowdfunding opportunities, angel investing, people partnering together through employee stock-owned companies when the owner was stepping down or stepping aside or retiring. We've seen Latino and Latino-owned businesses that have also worked very hard, who may not have a traditional model, but are intuitive and are moving forward in innovative ways to sell shares of stock in a venture. We also are bootstrappers as businesses and are, willing to open a food truck and begin at that point before we begin to scale, where costs are a lot lower. So, and many of these folks do not have a business plan, Ali. They just have a dream and hard work to back it up and their limited means, but they're not doing it through debt. They're doing it through really just family, friends, investors, partners. And so I'm excited by the innovation that immigrants have brought to this country. And as you know, 1 out of every 10 jobs in the U.S. is a job created by an immigrant-owned business.
Lawrence agrees that businesses have learned to be more creative after the pandemic.
A lot of people are going to be starting a whole bunch of new restaurants in the next few seasons, mainly because a lot of people came into some money and they're willing to try some new things out. There's always competition with restaurants. The restaurant business is very difficult, but I'm not worried about that as much because core customer base, name recognition, those things are. If anything, I'm more. The challenge is going to be more as we expand and grow. We're looking at possibilities of opening up actually a sushioki in Kuala Lumpur. We're looking at sushioki possibly in other locations around the area. So I think that's going to be one of the few challenges, how we do that. How do we keep the same culture, the same mission, and the same goal in every one of our locations?
And Issaka, on the front lines, what are his hopes for the future?
It's not bad for anyone looking for food. So I mean, like we help a lot. We are really really essential because essential work, essential service because food is very important for everyone. I'm feeling good because when you remind when you remind people, you remind yourself too. Yeah, giving advice to people is to give advice to yourself too, because you have to lead by example. Leading by example is what? Helping people to learn, teaching people, but at the same time you have to do the same thing or more than them.
And what are some of the things we can learn from the pandemic for the future? Ramiro thinks more could be done to help small businesses, especially those owned by immigrants.
We're going to have to open up, a lot of our important permitting and trade and H-1Bs and H-2Bs and, DACA, where we provide, a seasonal workforce, because many folks don't want to move to the U.S. They just want to work here. So anyway, I that's what I meant by equity, is that the people are wide open now about how their businesses could grow and start and survive. But it's going to include a real honest partnership by our government to be creative and meet people where they are and do it in several languages also.
And Lawrence has found some silver linings in the last year and hopes that continues into the next year.
Yeah, I would say for sushioki, I think this has expanded our horizons and what we were able to do. We were very much a lunch mainly spot. I think this has really opened us up to be such a known location for great takeout. This is a great spot now to be like, hey, quick dinner, grab dinner on the run, grab dinner to go, grab dinner, take it home. This is now kind of really solidified that as this is our main, one of our great attractions about it. Where else can you grab sushi to go fast? Where else can you go to get it good, fresh, healthy food in a fast food manner almost, the fast casual manner? So that kind of really helped us kind of expand what we're kind of known for, which has been, I think, wonderful. And it's going to lead to good things, I believe.
Our guests today were Ramiro Cavazos of the U.S. Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, Issaka Kouraogo, an associate at Whole Foods, and Lawrence Yu of Sushiyoki in Durham, North Carolina. You can read more about each of this week's guests on our website, immigrationforum.org/podcast. If you like what you hear, subscribe to Only in America wherever you are listening to this episode. Only in America is produced and edited by Katie Lutz, Joanna Taylor, and Becca Wall. Our artwork and graphics are designed by Carla Leha. I'm Ali Nurani. I will talk to you next week.
Support for the National Immigration Forum comes from the Carnegie Corporation of New York, supporting innovations in education, democratic engagement, and strengthening international peace and security. And from Humanity United. When humanity is united, we can bring a powerful force for human dignity.